Shut up and sit down.
Howdy guys, it's Andy from Bigmeks Workshop and Painting Studio, and today we're painting Isharann Soulrender from the Idnoth Deepkin range. And it's a bit of a weird one. I've never painted anything like this before. I've been referring to him as a fish bloke because he's got a bit of a mouthful of a name, and I find it really hard to remember. So we're going to start onto the cloak, onto these robes, or cloak, or whatever it is. Crag Blue is where we started. I started off from mid-tone, which is something I don't normally do. Been trying to try different methods out with my painting techniques, so it's always nice to do things a little bit different to what you're used to. So as always, we're thinning the layers up, making sure we get a nice, good quality coat without overloading the detail work. So next it is Cancel Blue by GW, and I'm painting that into the recesses. Starting to add some definition to the shadow areas, and by virtue of painting the shadows in, it makes the Crag Blue look brighter, and therefore pointing out the highlights a little bit nicer as well. After the Cantor Blue, it is my favourite blue, which is Dark Prussian Blue by Vallejo. That's a really, really rich dark colour, and I'm just applying that liberally into the recesses, trying to leave some of the Cantor Blue visible, but still making a good coat over it, so it really starts to add to the detail areas. Then it's back up to my Crag Blue to start blending those highlights in with the shadows, and you're starting to get a level of transition between the three colours already. It really starts to add that bit of movement to the robe, and makes the colours blend really naturally. So now we're just focusing on the highlights. It is Alitop Blue. Just working up those raised areas. Don't worry too much if you go too deep in. Because you're using such thin colours, you can always just go back with some of the darker shades, just to blend them back together neatly. So now we're going up to Teclis Blue, which is nice and bright, just to start finalising those highlights. As you can see, I have gone back and neatened things up a little bit, so it's totally normal to do that sort of thing. It just gives you, keep the paint thin, it gives you plenty of space to work in case you do need to tidy anything up anywhere. And on to the final highlight of the light blue, it's Lothern Blue. Focusing right on the centre of the raised areas, and just adding that final highlight in there, making it really vibrant. So next it is Sotek Green, going around the trim of the cloak. Now this is a weird sort of sea sort of shape going on. So I chose a almost sea green colour. So I'm going straight over the top of the edges of this. And then I'm highlighting the Sotek Green with Caribbean Blue by Scale 75. A couple of layers of this, and this really starts to pop. Bright. It goes really well with the blue, but it's incredibly bright at the side of it, so you get a real nice contrasting or complementary colour to each other, really making the entire thing look a bit more interesting. As you can see, I did a bit of highlight on there as well with Hellbound Fresh, but I couldn't get a decent image of that. Onto the armour, Oily Steel is the base colour. This is I've gone for using a slightly darker colour rather than starting in the middle on this one, as I'm doing something a little bit different with the armour to what I would normally do. So the Oily Steel is a Vallejo paint, probably similar to Ironbreaker, and going over straight over the top of the Oily Steel is Drakenhof Nightshade, incredibly thin. The reason I keep it thin is so it doesn't pull so much, and you also get a much lighter colour. I don't want as dark as it can be as a wash. I want it to stain the armour a sort of a blue colour without it completely changing the tone of it. So once I've got the Drakenhof Nightshade, I've then gone over with steel, and this is to tidy everything up. It also gives the first initial highlights on there, as this is slightly lighter than oily steel. And I'm just picking out all the raised areas and any of the areas of excess pooling, just to just tidying them up a little bit with this steel colour, and really making that armour section look quite interesting. After that, it is Vallejo's Chrome, which is my usual highlight colour for silvers. Really vibrant colour, and as you can see, I'm using a very narrow brush. I'm just really focusing on the extreme points of the armour plates, just to develop that colour and make it look like it's reflecting the light properly. So onto the trim now. Now it's got a little bit of trim, but it's also got some weird bell things and everything as well. I'm going to start off with hammered copper, which is a Vallejo paint. Something along the lines of Hashut copper from GW would work equally well. And I'm just picking out these weird fins on the top of his helmet crest, which if I hadn't realised it was a helmet, I would have assumed it was some kind of weird blade. Like I say, this guy's got a lot of weird effects going on, so it's a very unusual model. For the first highlight is bright brass, and this is a great colour, straight over the top of a hammered copper. It's just the right highlight level for it, and I'm just building that colour up, leaving some of the hammered copper showing through, but only faintly. I want it to filter a little bit with the brass colour. So as you can see, I'm starting to struggle getting the image right totally, but I'm using Amber Alchemy for the highlight over the top of the bright brass. I'm keeping it quite thin, so the other colours do filter it somewhat, so you can see all the different shades of the bronze colour. So onto that, it is Sycorax Bronze, just to add a little bit of depth to the colour, because this is slightly darker than Amber Alchemy, but it does allow the all the colours to blend nicely as well. So sort of because it's somewhere in between, it really does add a lot of balance to the transitions. So the hair is Scale 75's Deep Red, lovely rich colour, and I went for red as it's completely different to the blue. Nice contrasting colour, so it really brightens the model up. You get a real nice effects when you're adding colours from different ends of a spectrum together. So I've added some Antares red now, which is again scale 75. I'm just starting to bring the colour up a bit now, allowing the natural shape of the hairpiece to dictate where the highlights are. Just let it inform your decisions for everything what you're doing. So now it is Aldebaran red into the mixture, sort of mid-tone colour, and I'm just using that for the highlights. And now finally it is Mars orange added in, and as you can see, I'm just using the side of a brush to bring the hair out really nicely. And Mars orange is quite a vibrant colour, something along the lines of Troll Slayer. You get a real cool effect when you add it into the reds. So it is now pure Mars orange, just to catch those final edges where the light would naturally hit. And you get that real vibrant colour, make it look really interesting when it starts to come together as a full model. As you can see, I'm just adding a little bit more of the Mars orange around, just to bring that hot spots out just a little bit more. Trying to make the colour a little bit more colourful and bright. So onto the staff now. So I've tidied everything up with flat black, and I'm just adding some Scale 75's black grey as a first initial highlight. Now it doesn't come up well on camera because obviously black grey is incredibly dark against a regular black, but believe me, it does make a difference when you start to add subtle shades of black onto it when you look up close. So now I've added some Stormbeam Fur into the black grey. You're starting to see the colours brighten up a little bit. Now I've also added some sections of it going down along the sides of the trim on the weapon as well. And for the final highlight on the black, it is Miskatonic Grey, done with a very small brush. As just this very pinpoint line going all the way down the thing. So onto the fish, which is something I never really expected to ever paint. It is Scale 75's Brain Eater Azure, sort of a purpley grey colour. Kind of hard to explain. Sort of same sort of idea as Demonette Hide, sort of a halfway point between purple and grey. Yeah, very interesting colour out of it though, especially as you start to highlight it. So there we are, we've got a full coat of the purple, and now Stormbeam Fur onto the face and fins of the fish. I decided to go for Stormbeam Fur because there's a lot of subtle grey colours in there on the model already, using the Stormbeam Fur, so I've decided to keep the colour palette along them lines, so all the colours sort of match and blend together nicely. So onto the fish again. I've added some Leandris Grey, which is again another purpley grey colour, into the Brain Eater Azure, starting to highlight the fish scales naturally. It does have some engraved scales as well, so you can use them to your advantage and really pick out the highlights roughly where the model's leading you to be. Now I'm leaving a recess, darkened recess on the top edge of the fish where the flesh of the fish starts to fold in on itself. It just adds a little bit more variety to the colour and makes it look a bit more interesting. Now I'm being quite careful not to make the colours too vibrant at this stage, as I want the transitions to be quite gentle, otherwise they'll look a bit weird. So I've added even more Leandris Grey into this colour, and as you can see I'm just starting to pick out those upper sections, really vibrant where the light would naturally hit first. I've even gone a touch underneath just to pull the colours together, but I'm using really thin paint, so any areas I'd get a little bit thick, I'm just brushing it out with water. So this has added some Miskatonic Grey into it now. Again, quite an unusual grey colour, quite creamy, and I'm just pulling that paint through with a very damp brush, so it stretches the pigment and blends out the colours wherever it gets a little bit scruffy. So back onto the fin sections. It is Stormbeam Fur plus Miskatonic Grey, and I'm starting to pick out the highlights now, being careful not to bring them out too strong early on, as these highlights need to be really subtle to prevent the fish dude looking any weirder than he already is. Once the that layer's gone down, it's now pure Miskatonic Grey. I'm starting to add the extra bright colour to the more extreme areas of the fins, really making those quite vibrant against this muted blue purple colour. It really makes it start to really pop. Now I've brightened up the Miskatonic with a touch of an off-white colour, just a small amount, just to really make the grey a touch lighter, so I can finish off these highlights and get them really interesting. And you get that real nice colour shift between the dark and the light, just as you expect to see, and it really makes the colour really makes the colour work very nicely. Now onto the flesh, and this is Resurrection Flesh, which, as you know, is probably one of my go-to colours. Now I couldn't get this on camera very well, as the flesh section on him is stuck between some open areas on his helmet, so it's very difficult to get this on camera. But I just added a couple of good layers of Resurrection Flesh, get it nice and smooth, and then added the Leandris Grey again into the mix to really brighten up those flesh colours. Now, as said, a very weird model. Never painted anything quite like this one before, but quite interesting as well. Now, as you can see, I've put an oil wash on this model, and it really makes up the details pop up. Get a really cool contrast against the between the colour sections. And there you have it. That is Isharann Soulrender, or as I call him, a fish elf. Yeah, quite a weird one, but enjoyable all the same. Once I'd gotten into painting him, because it's a bit of a break from what I've been doing recently, which is obviously Marines. So, thank you for watching this, guys. Obviously, we'd love to see your comments, so please comment if you've got anything to say about what we do. If you want to see more of what we do, hit like, hit subscribe, and share with your friends. And always, as always, we've got some thank yous to make. So, massive thank yous to the Orc Boys, Matt, Ludwig Hofbauer, Warren, D-Wack, Kit Lindquist, Akins of Dawn, and Mark. You're our top paying Patreons. If you guys are be interested in joining us on Patreon, check the links below, where you get early access to all our videos, and a multitude of other little benefits as well. Also, thank you to the Outpost, which is our affiliate link. If you do have interest in checking them out, they give out between 15 and 20% discount on most hobby supplies. If you go through our affiliate link in the description below, we also get store credit as well at no cost to yourself. So you're helping yourself by saving money, you're helping us by giving us store credit, so everyone's a winner on that one. So thank you for watching, guys, and I shall catch you in the next one. Ta-ra.